The tires screeched so loud Daniel almost dropped the bag of groceries he was carrying. He turned his head just in time to see a car spin out of control, crashing into a tree on the icy road. Most drivers slowed, stared, then sped away. But Daniel Cooper, a single dad and former Marine, ran toward the smoke without thinking twice. Inside the wreck, a young woman was pinned against the steering wheel, barely conscious. Blood trickled down her forehead. The smell of gasoline filled the freezing air. "Ma'am, stay with me," Daniel shouted, trying to wrench the door open. It wouldn't budge. Flames licked from under the hood. He had seconds to decide. Daniel smashed the window with a rock, ignoring the glass cutting his hands. He reached inside, unbuckled her seat belt, and with all his strength, pulled her free just before the car burst into flames. He carried her to the side of the road, checked her pulse, and called for help. "Daddy," a small voice cried out behind him. It was Lily, his 8-year-old daughter, who had been waiting in their truck. Daniel's heart clenched. He had left her alone, risking himself. But when he looked at the unconscious stranger, he knew he had done the right thing. Hours later, Daniel sat in the hospital waiting room, bandages on his hands. Lily slept with her head on his lap. A doctor approached. "Sir, you saved her life. If you hadn't acted so quickly, she wouldn't have made it." Relief washed over him. "Can I see her?" The doctor nodded. Inside the room, the young woman lay pale but stable. Daniel just stood there quietly for a moment. He didn't know her name, but he felt strangely protective of her, like fate had put him in that spot for a reason. The next morning, as Daniel was preparing to leave, a group of people in expensive suits entered the hospital. At the center was a man Daniel recognized immediately, his boss, Richard Grant, the CEO of the construction company where Daniel worked. "Where is she? Where's my daughter?" the CEO demanded. Daniel froze. "Daughter?" The nurse pointed to the room where the young woman was recovering. Richard stormed in, but when he saw Daniel inside, he stopped. "What are you doing here?" Richard asked, suspicion in his voice. Daniel hesitated. "Sir, I pulled her out of the crash." The CEO's expression shifted. "You're telling me you saved my daughter's life?" Moments later, the young woman stirred. "Dad," she whispered. Richard rushed to her side, tears streaming down his face. "Sweetheart, you're safe. This man," he turned to Daniel, "this man saved you." She turned her head toward Daniel. "Thank you," she whispered weakly. Daniel nodded, humbled. Anyone would have done the same. But Richard shook his head. "No. Most people wouldn't risk their life for a stranger. Not anymore." 2 days later, Richard called Daniel into his office. "I owe you more than words," the CEO said. "I know about your situation. Raising a daughter alone. Working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. You've never once asked for a handout." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't do it for a reward." "I know," Richard said, smiling. "And that's exactly why I'm giving you one. From today, you're promoted to site manager with a salary that matches. And I want to cover Lily's school tuition. She deserves the best education." Daniel's throat tightened. For years, he had carried the weight of survival, barely keeping the lights on, skipping meals so Lily could have hers. And now, because he chose compassion over fear, everything was about to change. That night, Daniel told Lily the news. She squealed and hugged him. "See, Daddy," she said. "You always tell me being kind is never a waste. And look, it made everything better. Daniel smiled, tears in his eyes. You're right, baby. Sometimes life rewards us when we least expect it. Weeks later, Daniel visited the young woman he saved. She was walking again, smiling, alive because of him. You didn't just save me, she said quietly. You gave me a second chance to live differently. I used to think money was everything. Now I know kindness is what matters most. Daniel left the hospital that day with Lily's hand in his, heart lighter than it had been in years. Because sometimes, risking everything for a stranger isn't just about saving their life, it's about rediscovering your own purpose. And in a world where kindness often feels rare, Daniel had proven that it can still change everything, for everyone.